Hey everyone, this is Villalobos, and you normally see him on LinkedIn Learning. I'm running kind of a little experiment and thinking about perhaps what I'm going to do after the Not a Podcast live stream. And so today I thought I would show you something that I've been playing around with called CodeSpaces from GitHub. It's something that does require some early access beta, so you might not yet have it, but I think it's kind of a revolutionary product from GitHub. It essentially brings you Visual Studio Code directly into your GitHub repos. And the reason that I think it's pretty awesome is that I think it has the potential of changing the way that developers work with code, because it is going to allow you to immediately create projects, or rather modify existing repos without having to clone and download the code and then npm install and do all those things. You can just directly go into a coding environment and modify what it is doing, and therefore modify your repository directly without having to go through a Visual Studio Code. So this has just a lot of potential because it will just give you quick access to everything. So you can see that it's actually based on Microsoft CodeSpaces. So GitHub has taken it and then given it a UI sort of refresh. For a long time, you could use Visual Studio on the cloud. And this is what CodeSpaces is essentially, with sort of a GitHub wrapper around it. So it does look like it is in GitHub, where it does look like the UI that you're used to using in GitHub, very simple and clean. And it's just going to be tied into GitHub. So let me just show you a little bit about what you can do with it and how it works. So I'm going to go over here to a project. So I just released a course that you can find by going to LinkedIn Learning. It's called you can go to this page and you can see all of my courses in that page. And on that page, you'll see that my latest course is a course called CSS Scrolling and Parallax. The course essentially shows you how to work with parallax scrolling, but then it also shows you kind of a step-by-step project-based guide on how to work with CSS animations. And then we go into JavaScript and user request animation frame and all that stuff. So that's not the important thing. The important thing is that if you go to the repository for this course, you can actually let me go over here. You'll see that I'm not sure if everybody has this yet, but the place where you normally would clone the repo, when you have access to CodeSpaces, you should see a button now that says code. And from there, you can use the traditional sort of links that lets you, open this in GitHub Desktop, open it and download a zip or clone the repo. You can see that I have this other option here, open with CodeSpaces, which is what we want to do. Now, if I do this, it's going to spin up a Docker container and open this up. It does take a while. That's one of the things that I hope in the future, as computing power gets faster, I hope that this can become a little bit quicker. Once you've created a code space, creating a second code space is actually a little bit easier and faster. So I've already done one so that you don't have to see sort of the repo spinning this up. And you can see that right here. And I just wanted to show you that it's pretty much a copy of Visual Studio Code. So if you use Visual Studio Code, this should be pretty familiar to you. You should be able to note that you have this sort of sidebar over here on the left that has your traditional icons that let you take a look at the Explorer or turn that on and off. So the Explorer is what shows you the directory structure. You can also look at the sort of source control. So this is showing you changes that have been made to this project since we opened it up. And you also have this right here. So this is something you probably haven't seen in Visual Studio Code. This is actually where right now the menus live. So this is where you would find the file menu and everything else. You will notice that the command keys are actually quite similar to what you're already used to. So for example, here, if I wanted to open a terminal, I'm on a Mac, and I'm going to hit Control tilde, and this opens up a terminal at the bottom of the screen where I can type in just regular terminal commands. And if you notice, this is a pretty simple project. I'm using gulp.js to open up a gulp file, or to process any changes to the document using this gulp file. And I am also using browser sync to create a live reload repo. So you may think that when you're using this, how would you actually preview something that you've done? And so let's see what happens. Actually, I'll do, let's see, do I have to npm? I may have to npm install. I think it might already be done. So let's go ahead and just do npm start. And it'll tell me if I need to npm install. So actually, already as part of creating the repository or the code space, it actually ran the npm install command for me. And it looked at the package.json, got whatever it needed to get. And it actually created using this gulp file. So my package.json, I have a script here. All the script does is start the gulp process. Gulp is already pre-installed. So in the gulp file, you see that I run a number of commands, right, that just process things whenever they get changed. So that's what it's doing. It's just running this command and giving me access to localhost. So what's going to happen? So normally to open up a browser with localhost, I would option click, or because I think it's command. Let's try command click here. See if it does it. Hold on a second here. I think I'm supposed to be getting, let's see if there's anybody watching me. There's nobody watching me yet. So interestingly, this is probably a little bit late for everyone in LinkedIn. So I know that there's a way of actually bringing up the, what do you call it? The local hosts within CodeSpaces. It's one of the first things I looked at. So for some reason, I can't seem to be bringing it up. So typical stuff that happens. Let's see. We'll hide this thing over here. And normally a command click to open this up. So I know that there has to be a way of opening that up as a separate window. I don't think command clicking on this is going to help either. So this is making me nervous here because sort of should have checked this out beforehand. I don't think that localhost is going to work. I know that there is a way of actually opening this up in a separate window. However, let's take a look at the rest of the interface. You can see that it's super familiar. When I open up the package.json, syntax highlighting working just fine. I can open up the build folder, which will have my index.html running here. And syntax highlighting, it picks it right up. You can modify your preferences here, just like you would in Visual Studio Code. You just have to remember that this right here is the application menu. So we can maybe select a color theme here, and I can pick one of these. So let's do Visual Studio Dark here. That one is a little bit hard to see, I think, but let's go back. I find that whenever I'm doing stuff whenever I'm demoing things, that the dark mode isn't as good as a lighter mode. So let's see, File. Let's go File, and then Preferences, Color Theme. So I actually like using Solarized Light. I think it has like good enough contrast, and I can still hit Command plus and minus like I would, because this is a browser. So actually 100% would be something like this. I can modify the preferences if I want to, or I can treat this window as a browser window. So you can also go File, Preferences, and then go to Settings and modify any settings in here that you would want to. So let's see, page size. Let's see, controls the number of lines. So somewhere in here should be the size of the font. So actually, let's try size. Type in size in here. Oh, that's good. So I like to code with like an 18-point font size. And let's go back into index.html. And we'll close out this dialog box. So yeah, anything you want to do in preferences, you can do like you would in normal Visual Studio Code. Let's see, terminal, configure, build tasks. Everything is here. The only thing I'm not sure is why when I try to sort of build from here or actually open this up in a window, why it's giving me a hard time here. So serving files from build. But we'll figure that out later. Anyways, just a quick look. I definitely will need to do a follow-up. I thought I understood how to actually open this up in a browser window. And what it will actually do is it will open up localhost as a separate tab or target that you can actually see what you're working on, from. So without having to have a localhost, clearly you wouldn't have a localhost when you're working on a remote place. And I know that it does work. I don't know exactly why it's not allowing me to do it from here, but chalk it up to trying to demo something complicated. So anyways, just wanted to show you that it's pretty much like using Visual Studio Code. You get all of the cool features, so still have the command palette if you want to. You can also install extensions. So let's see, extensions. So let's see, this is the search. So this is how you would extend something. Right, so here's how you would go to the extensions. I'm not sure what I would want to install here. So it comes with a lot of stuff. So let's try installing Prettier. It's a pretty common one. All right, so it says reload required. Let's reload the interface and it's going to reload it. Yeah, and that should be now installed right here, right? And you can configure it. It should be part of your preferences, just like everything else. And I think that, as a matter of fact, one of the weird things about using this is that occasionally I'll forget that I'm not working in Visual Studio Code, that it's not the real Visual Studio Code. So something I tend to do all the time is actually close the window. So because I'm in a browser and I'm a habitual browser closer, I end up closing the view all the time. So I don't know if there's some sort of way of maybe improving that. Looks like I have a few comments here. So, hey, people are watching. So, hey, Maurice, how's it going? Yeah, that localhost line had me wondering, since you are in the browser, how did it do that? Yeah, so it's really running just a regular gulp process. So as far as the virtual Visual Studio Code knows, this is no different than running a gulp command in your local machine. It's just that it's running it on a Docker container somewhere in the cloud. And I have been able to pull up the preview. And the only thing that it hasn't done in the past is given me a live preview. So whenever I update something, I do have to go and refresh the window. I'm fairly new to this, so I'm sure that I'll be able to do an update at some point, definitely on how to get that working. So yeah, it doesn't know. It almost like doesn't know that it's not the regular Visual Studio Code. It works exactly like how you would think it would. So somebody here, 9MM says hi. Let's see, have to head out, but this is being recorded. Yeah, so this will be on my stream as far as I know, and it's also going to be on YouTube. So I'm simulcasting to both YouTube and also LinkedIn Live, of course. So could it be because of HTTP and HTTPS moving from a secure HTTP? And of course, yeah, it's weird the way that it worked before for me, and I probably should have done it really quick before I started the live stream. is that it just opened up another window, and then the URL for that window wasn't localhost, whatever I had, localhost 3000. It was some other URL, and I was able to preview just like I would within a browser. So normally in Visual Studio Code, I pull up my code, I run that npm start command, which runs Sculpt, and then I have it open a browser window. We do the same thing. It's just that the URL would actually not be localhost, because that wouldn't make any sense. It would actually create a preview window for me. So I have to figure how that works out, but that's a good question. Good to see that I'm actually seeing some super awesome people. I think that I'll do a follow-up whenever I figure that out. But I just wanted to show it to you because I think it really has this insane potential to change the way that we all work on code. I think one of the stated purposes of the project is to just, when you want multiple people to work on a project, a lot of times we're all working in a different environment, different machines, and they just wanted to allow people to have quick access to modify projects. And kind of, if you think about what Visual Studio Code can do, one of the things that Walt, Richard, and I tested out recently was how to have multiple people work on the same project at the same time. So Visual Studio Code has this feature called Live Share. And if you look at the list of courses that I was shared with you, which is right on the page, you will see a course that shows you how to do that. You can have multiple people connect to the same project and work on it at the same time. So you can totally install that same extension in Visual Studio Code or the CodeSpaces. So I'm sure that we will be doing a full course on it once we have definitely more experience with it. So just think about that, not having to clone a repo, not having to npm install, not having to really worry so much about, oh, this project is using maybe this dependency, and but when I cloned it, maybe it was using different dependencies. So it really changes the way that you think about working on projects. And it's almost like a single click access to an environment that lets you work on a project. First time you run it, it does take quite a while. The second time you run it, it's a lot quicker. It just brings it up. It kind of stores the state of the project as you worked on it. There's a lot of work that is being done with it. So I'm really excited to see where they're going to take it. I think in the future, what I plan to do with my live streaming now that we finished the Not a Podcast show is to work on showing you these type of things. I do a lot of stuff under a hashtag called ReboTIL for Today I Learned. So I've been posting a lot of really cool utilities and libraries. So another thing that I want to do is not just talk about them, but actually show you how they work and go through and do something maybe practical and play around with it. And what's great is you guys can sort of comment and ask questions as I am sort of messing around with it and perhaps not quite understanding all of it. So anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll do this soon again. Take care.